fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to talk to you about the USS Hydra. In fact, we just built her, so let's find her on the sliding scale, put her out, tier 1, fresh one, right out of the dock. Now, I've also talked about in previous videos why I am not one of those players and content creators who recommends that you dive into these early on because of the high cost and specifically faction credits. But that doesn't mean they have no value, and you might decide, hey, I want one for myself, and that's completely okay, very valid in fact to pick one up, because there are pros to getting a 4-star faction monitor. Now these open up level 40 plus, and you know they're a big jump in some ways from your Antares, Cavort, or even the Valkyries if you are a Romulan out there, you green-blooded goblins. But regardless of how you view about the races of Star Trek, let's talk about the value and the impact that the Hydra and its compadres can provide. Now I'm going to focus obviously on the Hydra because that's the one I ground out and free to play I put a lot of time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into this. And for those that don't know how I did it, let me back out real quick and show you. I went and I ground them out in Soul. Simple as that. I went to the capital system of the Federation and I just hit these over and over and over, just the same way I got the Kelvin. That's how I got the pretty Hydra right here. And you can do the same, or you can do it by going through your faction rep. So transition right here, you can see the total blueprint cost of these is actually one of the reasons that I'm kind of a negative towards them. 180,000 faction credits is a lot, especially if you are a 39 preparing for 40s or going 40 plus, and you also want to get a Valdor slash Newton, Valdor slash Kelvin slash Katinga, etc. Faction credits are a premium, not to mention what you need for your officers, so it'll be very tactical in how you make these choices. Now, this also becomes available in the away team store, and I can pull that cost up as well. It is slightly different, so let me jump over there. Momento. Away teams, let's take this down. So this is appreciated, but get what you need off of it. And then let's scroll. So we're gonna find the Bok Chor. We'll use that as an example because I don't have the Federation rep. 3,650 for one, 10,950 for two, quite pricey, and 18,250 for three. That is your blueprint cost for the various rare miners here. And as you can see, I need to scroll and find the Vortivore, and then, but what I really need to do is, while I'm doing this video, I'm gonna go ahead and claim our Coronar. I gotta do that every day. So in terms of away team costs, this is a pretty cheap way to do it, just relatively speaking, if you're doing your away team missions. And let's talk about the pros and cons of it coming out of the dock. Now, you're going to see this with my research, right? So keep that with a grain of salt on this account. So for example, the warp range, subtract 20 by that, and that's the starting warp range. So it would be 75. For me, it's 95. But in terms of the value there, you can see immediate value. Cargo capacity at 2.2 million with a protected cargo of 45,000. Granted, tier 1, level 1, no upgrades fresh out the dock. But to compare that to other things, let's compare it to, say, Cavort, which I use all the time. Warp range only 80. That's obviously less. This is a tier 8 Cavort, but cargo capped 6 million with 181,000 protected. And you see the crews there. And we've got our Amalgam. Warp range 145 at tier 7. This is definitely something you could have if you are in the 40s, a tier 7 Amalgam. 7.26 and then a 287. There's no officers on there boosting anything. And even a Fuchsia, 108 warp range, still better. This is only a tier 5 Fuchsia with 550 and then 132,000 protected. Again, no protected cargo officer. So definitely has a little bit of lacking in that department. And let's go over total cost, because let's talk about upgrading this beast. And for a long time, this is why I talked about there are a few negatives, and I'm open for various opinions here, because there's obviously not always been 100% agreement amongst content creators or players when it comes to should you get these. So when I look at them, the cost is a big issue, but also let's talk about the pros of it. So right above me, tier 3, and then you can go through the various ones. I've gone from tier 3 to tier 5 to tier 7, and then over there, tier 9, with the appropriate cost of what it is to get to that in base cost form, as well as what the warp engines are and the mining laser. Now, why did I focus on mining laser and not cargo? Simple. You have so many officers that can boost your cargo capacity or your protected cargo. I even run a protected cargo crew. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I do. So because of that, I know that I can, maybe worry less about that, but I need to worry about how fast is it mined, What's its warp range? Because that's the biggest benefit of picking up a 4-star miner, getting you deeper in 4-star space. And what does that translate to? So you see right here, once we get it to tier 3, warp range natively is gonna be 90, which is pretty significant, because if we talk about my strat of like my Antares and my Cavort and stuff like that, you see that's warp 80. And if I swap it out for my Antares, which I believe I've taken a smidge higher, click that real quick. Yeah, tier 9's a little higher. You see we're gonna have warp 90. So this is with me having my research, and I've got it at warp 90, so it maxes out at warp 70. So obviously getting to tier 3, the cost is not ridiculous. See, only costing a little bit of uncommon. The biggest issue for you, if you're going level 40 plus, is going to be the ship parts. And you're going to be becoming very accustomed to that if you're a new player in this area of the game, because ship parts are probably the worst bottleneck of the 4-star and 5-star areas of space in Star Trek Fleet Command. That doesn't make it a negative though, because you can slow roll this one. Again, this is just tier 3, already with a warp range of 90 natively. For me, that would be warp range 110 with my research. But if you're a level 40 player, warp 90 gets you pretty far in the game. How far, in fact? Well, let's take this down and let's go take a look at our deep space. So I'm going to use Federation here just as an example because, well, we're using a Federation ship. So, I mean, anyway, Hollis is right here. You see, it's a warp range is capable for my Antares. I think his warp range is 75. I could have to get a, yeah, right here, warp 75. That's my Stella, can't reach it. But if you try to go out even further, say, for example, Crete, which is another 4-star mining system, and you're going to find variants in both crystal and ore in Klingon and Romulan space, respectively. Now, this one is a warp range 105, and if you remember, tier 3 couldn't get me there natively, but I can get there now if I took my Hydra to tier 3. But what I can do, if we actually back out, hit the mining button, you can see where all the mines are. This actually is covered, if we go back to our original picture, tier 5. Look at that. Tier 5, we can get there pretty easy. Actually, tier 6, you can get there, and tier 4, you can get there. So getting just a little bit of stuff in, you know, I hate to call 70,000 uncommon miner parts little, but you probably have started to prepare for this. You don't really have access to that until you get 40 plus. Keep in mind that 41 is when you unlock uncommons in your refinery. Again, this is why in the beginning of the 40s, one of the reasons I'm not really big on picking it up, because it just feels like an added bottleneck. But then you get to, you know, the mid 40s, not even level 46. You could literally be level 42 or 44, and you find that you can actually start getting through these a lot faster. And it doesn't feel like just this big, hulking, and expensive, because it is a 4-star ship, expensive to repair miner that doesn't get you as far as you'd like. But this can get you here pretty easily to that Kree system that's right here. Or what about if we want to go even deeper? What if we want to go out to Sozin? You see right here, Sozin, right? Bam. Well, Sozin is warp 120. And if you look over there on the chart, you can see the cost and where you need to get tier-wise. But more importantly, I want to show you, or really want to highlight, the mining laser, because this is where you get a little bit of love from me on these new ships. I'm going to fade out in just a second. I'm going to fade out as soon as you can see the mining laser. You ready for this? All right. Memorize where the mining lasers are right here. This is a Max Antares. Mining laser is 1920. All right, 1920. Now, I've also got various officers here, so y'all probably want to see it without any officers at all. So let me swap out, put this over here just so you can confirm what the number is, and assign, and then we're going to go details, 1920. So if you're curious if it's because I had the Quark officers right there, it had nothing to do with that. So 1920, but let's go back. All right, you ready? You ready? We're going to, turn this back on. I'm looking down because I got to get it fixed. Bam, there it is. All right, so we got this back up. Now look at the mining laser on these. You see how it grows and becomes an even better and faster miner, not just for its particular prototype here where it wants to mine gas, but it actually gets better just generally speaking. That mining laser over there, big. Mining laser up there, tier 7, big. Like, you've had to level these up to get to that point, right? And at tier 5, as you can see, has less of a mining laser than a maxed Antares. But as you scaling up, we're assuming that you're going to build this and use it in the mid to late 40s. Tier 7's really not that crazy of a thought. It doesn't cost a lot of rares, as you can see. The uncommons aren't that bad. And again, ship parts are the biggest issue. It's why I actually like these ships for players if you are a mid 40s. I'm talking 42 So 46 is a great unlock range for these ships, especially if you grind them out. But there is a little bit of a drawback if you're trying to do them at 40. It just is adding more bottleneck to your game. It's adding more, difficulty to really find those sweet spots and find the fun, so to speak. But there are also some good advantages to going through and picking up one of these 4-star miners. Warp range being a big part of that. Also, it will naturally have more cargo capacity, and it will upgrade and be a big, hulking, better ship. Warp range being the biggest thing. And you do have other things that have better warp range. Like we talked about the Amalgam can get you deep. We talked about the Meridian can get you deep. But they also don't have the same benefits. And one of those benefits is the mining laser. And you also have what I like about these that is different. If you remember, the Antares, Kavort, and Valkeys, the 3-star faction miners, all take the same material to upgrade. They all take crystal. Whereas when you get to these miners, the Hydra, you'll notice, takes gas. So you have common gas and ore. The normal upgrade path you would expect for faction-specific stuff, which I think is a fantastic improvement in the game. And if you're like me, where you went Valdor and are going Coronar, maybe the Hydra isn't for you. Maybe you decide to go for the Vortivore instead, which does ore. Or maybe you decide to go Pylum and Defiant and Talios. So you got a whole bunch of gas left over, and you can actually throw it in here, no problemo. Whatever route it is you went in the game, there are ways to have a lot of success. Even though I'm not a big fan of picking those up at level 40, I really like these if you are in the early to mid 40s. Great to pick up, definitely add a lot to your gameplay. It can help you get to even more of those elusive notes. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button. It's a little thumbs up. Looks like this. See? It's right over there. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos. Live long and plunder. Stay safe for those Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next one. And rolling out.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.
Actually, real quick, if you love the channel, do this. Check out RevDeuce.com. Greatly appreciate it.